And we're live. All right, guys. Test drive of the, solo live stream of the new channel, The Resourceful Catholic Man. I apologize sort of in advance. The audio is going to be um, less than ideal today. I ran out of time this morning. I was getting the kids ready, getting them set up with cartoons, and I didn't get a chance to set up my good mic. But and for whatever reason, my good webcam isn't working, so we're just going stock today. How's everybody doing today? Maybe I'll go post this. Say hi if you're watching. Hopefully it's working. Looks like it is. Let's see here. Maybe I'll go post over on Twitter here. Hey Jonah, how are you? Good to see you. What are you up to today? Let's see here. I'm just gonna post. I'm just gonna post a link to the live stream to a couple places quick here, and then we'll get talking. Okay. All right. It's over on Twitter now. So, yeah, the sun is just coming up here. I think what the temperature is. It's been very cold here in the Midwest. And what's the weather like out there, Jonah? Let's see. What do we got here? So 21 degrees. That's a big improvement from what we had. It was like 15 or 20 below zero on Monday here. And kids didn't have school, which was nice. Kids didn't have school on the Tuesday that we got back from our trip to Arizona. If I had known they weren't going to have school, I theoretically would have spent another night up in Minneapolis where we flew into. Yeah, I wonder how cold it got last night. Do you heat with wood, Jonah? So we have a wood. So this is, most of you haven't seen this before. This is one of the rooms in our house. You can't really see. So this way is the. Tell me about that, Jonah. So this is our log house here. We built this log house about 12 years ago. And then the room that we're in right now used to be I used to have a deck on each end of the house. And so there's a door here that used to be an entrance door to the house. And there was one on the other side. The house is small. It's 16 by 40 with a full loft. And then and then there's this room here is what is it? 8 by 16? 16 foot this way and 8 this way. So I finished this room off, put a roof on it, walls, insulated it, and then I use pine tongue and groove. Pine tongue and groove I find is a really nice way to do stuff on your own. It's a little more expensive material than other things for sure, but you can really do it yourself if you have a decent miter saw and an air nailer. And so this is all tongue and groove, and this is kind of our home office here. This is where I work when I'm at home. And then on the other end of the house, we enclose that deck. Um, we enclose that deck, and that's kind of a front porch, like boots and jackets and firewood. Um, yeah, so that's the biggest thing. I hate painting and I hate drywalling. I don't mind installing drywall, but I hate the mudding and taping and sanding. So I I have a lot of tongue and groove in this place. And just put it up, and then I think I just put a couple coats of like a clear polyacrylic finish. That's how we did all the walls in the house. It was a polyacrylic finish. The kids still draw on it. You can't see it here, but once the kids are kind of past the age of destroying stuff, we'll probably sand it down and refinish it. But yeah, it's just so much quicker than sheetrock. I do have sheetrock in the house on a few of the interior walls because I thought um, it would be a little brighter than the wood, even as it ages over time. On hindsight, I don't know that I would have messed with the sheetrock at all. I might have just. I was afraid that putting wood everywhere would be too much wood and be kind of dark. So, but yeah, uh, for a do-it-yourselfer, doing pine tongue and groove is a really nice way to go. Um, so that's what we have here. But yeah, so we heat our house with wood. So you can't see it, but looking out this way is kind of our woods. We have about 20 acres. About half of that is woods. It kind of all flows down to the bottom, and then it comes up the other side, and then and there's a road on the other side of the property. So there's kind of a road that wraps up around our property, and so there's actually frontage on the other side. That's where my hay ground is at for our that we use for our cattle. We have a building site over there, but I do like heating with wood. It doesn't take a ton to heat this house, and we cut some wood on our place, but we live near Amish territory, and so there are plenty of Amish sawmills around here. And so they have all kinds of slabs. So when they're kind of squaring up the logs, you're trying to get the bark off, but you end up with some of the, the good wood. And it's pretty much a waste material. So I can get a wagon load of that for $30, and we could heat our entire house on 2 wagon loads a year. So less than $100, we could heat our house with all the slab wood we wanted, and it pretty much it's all comes at the length you want. Now there'll be some oddball lengths and wide pieces that you have to deal with, but a lot of people around here heat with slabs. Um, I don't just heat just with slabs, mostly because um, I have the woods. So I have trails going down through our woods. I have um, fences and stuff, electric fences and stuff, and so you have just trees break off and go down, and so I keep just kind of keep that stuff clean, and I enjoy cutting firewood, like running a chainsaw, but I don't exclusively do that because, quite honestly, it's a better use of my time to just work and then buy a couple wagons of firewood. But I do enjoy cutting firewood. So we have Jonah has let's see if I can put that up there. A boiler. What kind of wood heater do you have, Jonah? So we actually have a wood cook stove. Now we don't really cook with it much, but we could theoretically cook our food with the wood cook stove. It's a small wood cook stove because our house is small. Um, so it's not like for if we were just heating, it would be nice to have like a small soapstone one that really has a nice firebox and you can really it kind of radiates for a long time. So ours is kind of you have to kind of fill a little more often. but it is nice having the option to, cook on the, sometimes in the mornings I'll fry eggs on the stovetop, or just keep a kettle on there with hot water, and we'll burn, we'll heat up hot water. The one day that I throw stuff in the oven so I can bake. You can bake pizza in the oven, or just like reheating leftovers and stuff. So I really like the wood cook stove. Um, as far as a boiler, yeah, I mean, around here, I don't know what it's like out there, Joan. A lot of people around here have those outdoor boilers, um, which are really good in theory, but a lot of work in practice. If you're a farmer, or you have some decent heavy equipment, so if you have like a decent skid steer and a tractor, something where you can kind of haul decent amounts of wood at a time, um, and you have access to plenty of wood, an outdoor boiler can be a real deal, especially if you're trying to heat like a separate shop or something like that. But for most people, like, it doesn't really pay to have an outdoor boiler, I don't think, if you're going to be buying all your firewood. Um, so that's my own impression. And I'm not a big fan of the outdoor boilers because they're kind of they 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 cook at a kind of a low temperature, and so you get a lot of smoke, especially when you stoke the fire. And it's, I don't know, you're just kind of walking around in smoke, and it's kind of not really fair to the neighbors and stuff like that. So, um, I'm a although the one unit I've looked at, Joan, I don't know if you've heard of these, it's called a Garn, Garn. So it's like a big round, it's a big cylinder, big tank, so it's a big water tank, and inside of it is the firebox. The difference between the Garn and like an outdoor boiler is it uses a secondary combustion chamber, and so you start a fire and you just burn the heck out of it. You pour air into it, and it burns all the wood up very quickly. A lot of the smoke you see going out the chimney is just unused fuel, really, for the most part. And so they burn, like, you get all of the value out of the firewood, and you heat it up, and then you kind of then let's say you might have a fire running for an hour or 2 hours or whatever, and then you don't have to run it for 24 hours or whatever. So it's uses a lot less firewood, and you really don't have any smoke. Basically, what comes out the other end is just steam, water vapor. So I've looked at that. If I ever build a large, like a shop slash garage machine shed out here, I would consider putting one of those in. Otherwise, they kind of operate the same way as the outdoor boiler. It's You'll have tubes running in the ground to your house or wherever you're doing, and it's using this big, I don't know how many thousands of gallons of water it is that are heated up, and it's insulated, and it's kind of circulating through that and warming the pipes with a type of fluid in it that goes to your house, and then usually it's like a heat exchanger inside the house that does that. So I thought about Garns. They are At the time when I looked at them, probably 10 years ago, they were pretty expensive. They probably still are. Whereas like a regular outdoor boiler, the smoky ones are probably 8 to 10,000, where these Garns are probably more like 15 to 20,000. Um, yeah, because they tend to have a very short smokestack. Um, Personally, I think anyone that lives in town or lives in a small village where there isn't zoning and has one of those is a real bad neighbor. That's There's a few people around here. There's one place up the road. It's just a, I don't know, collection of houses. There's a church there and stuff, but um, down in the valley, kind of the bottom spot, there's a guy that has one of these outdoor boilers. And sometimes on my way to the office, I'll see that he's out there stoking the fire, and a cloud of smoke just kind of pours up through all those houses. And I would hate that. Like I mean, it's a real annoyance if you, even our neighbor up the road here or across the yard here, and he just had an indoor furnace in his basement, but I don't know, for whatever reason his would smoke a lot um, when he would start it up, and the prevailing wind kind of goes from his place to ours. He's probably, I don't know, 100, 250 feet from us up here. It would kind of come right down in our house, and your eyes would start to water. So I think it's really good etiquette when you are burning wood to be mindful of your neighbors in terms of selecting the type of wood stove that you wood heat that you're going to use. Um, we have actually one neighbor straight down that way, but it's far enough away that the smoke that comes from our chimney tends to tends to dissipate or go up above them, which is kind of nice. I think it also helps to have a good high quality chimney. So we put in a really good chimney when we did this. Keeps keeps the smoke warm, and it tends to burn a little more. And so yeah, I think I don't know. I know that they were changing a bunch of regulations, so any new wood stoves, both I think indoor and outdoor, have it's like a catalytic converter type thing on it, but it's that secondary burn chamber um, that burns a lot more of the fuel and you get less smoke. Um, what people don't realize is smoke, for the most part, is just unused fuel gases in your fuel because your fire isn't hot enough to ignite those. And so when you burn wood and you have smoke, this and so the reason why you get smoke usually when you start your fire, but after the fire is burning, the smoke goes down, is because your fire is cold, and a lot of the gasification. I think that's not sure that's the right term, but it's when your fire starts, it's cold, and you're just not burning enough of the fuel off. But as the fire heats up, your smoke goes down and down and down because more of those gases are getting burnt in the chamber and are not going out the top. And it's just a waste of fuel. So you might as well. I'm a big fan of getting um, newer, high efficiency wood stoves, um, and using good chimneys. Our first house that we had, um, first house we bought, it was a big old farmhouse. I'm lucky I didn't burn that house down, but we had a wood furnace in the basement, and so it actually worked really well for that house. There was a wood furnace in the basement. It was an old, unfinished basement, and then we it had like an air jacket around it, and then we ran a pipe from the wood stove into the main plenum. So the main source of heat in the house was a gas furnace. The plenum is the all that galvanized metal piping that you have that brings air to the different parts of the house. And so we ran it into there. And then there was an old cement chimney in the middle of the house. And so I bought and installed one of um, those flexible stainless steel chimney liners in it because we were young and broke, and I thought I would do everything myself. So it was like it was like, I don't know, 30 feet to the top. Yeah, ours is exactly the same way. It was old and drafty. It was all the old single pane windows, so you had to have heat. I mean, I would have gone broke trying to keep that house warm with LP. But so we ran a chimney liner all the way to the top, and it actually worked pretty good, but what happened, it was an uninsulated chimney, uninsulated liner, and so it went through the middle of the house, and so it went, and I added insulation in the attic. There was some, but not a lot. And so when it got through the top of the insulation layer into the cold space between the top of the insulation and the roof, the smoke really cooled down, and so we had terrible creosote problems, and to the point where I welded up and built a ladder that just stayed on the roof because I would have to go up and clean that thing a couple times a winter. But the one time maybe it was one of the first times I woke up in the middle of the night and the house was full of smoke, and I was afraid we had a chimney fire. And here it had just kind of sealed up at the top, and so all the smoke started coming down around and in through the house. And so they had the fire department out there. They crawled up on the roof, and they have some sort of a device they run down through the chimney, and it knocks all the creosote off. Creosote is just all that unused fuel that turns back to a solid before it exit the chimney. That's what creosote basically is. So yeah, so we were young and dumb and got away with it. So when we built this house, I was like, I'm not dealing with that ever again. Um, and I want to make sure that it's safe and make the insurance company feel a little happier. So we bought the stove, and then I hired a company to come in and install the wood stove. Some of the best money I ever spent, and also had him install the chimney. I clean my chimney myself, um, mostly because it's they're so demanding. It's hard to get them out to clean it. I might have them do it, but you can clean your chimney okay yourself. If you're afraid of heights, it's not a great deal. So we have a kind of a pretty steep metal roof, and since we added the basement onto the house and everything got a little taller, it's not super easy to get to the peak where I need to. You can't walk up the side of the roof. You actually have to end up on the peak, and then it's just kind of slide out to where the chimney is at. And my wife's not a big fan of it. Um, yeah. Funny story about that. So the first time we had it, I knew it was going to happen. So I called up. It was just like 1 o'clock in the morning. I called. I think I called 911, and I said, "Listen, I think I have smoke in the house. I don't think I have the chimney fire, but I don't know." And I didn't. People used to get chimney fires because all that creosote would ignite, and it sounds like a rocket inside your house. People used to have that all the time. This house where we used to live, the old guy that used to live there for many years had chimney fires regularly. The fire department knew our place well. And so I said, I'm not sure if I have a chimney fire. I don't, but I don't know how to know if I do. Um, and all I had to do was mention chimney fires, and 10 minutes later, fire trucks start rolling in, and they come into the house. And strangely enough, we had our young kids up in the upstairs of the house sleeping. We picked them up and carried them downstairs, put them on the couch, um, because it was just less smoky on the first floor. And then the, some of our kids slept through the whole thing. There was there was firefighters wandering through our house, and the kids never woke up, didn't even see it. So yeah, that event was enough to turn me off of having old old wood stoves and crappy chimneys. Plus, I don't know, it's just a dangerous thing for your family. Cutting corners on your wood heat, especially if it's inside the house, is I think is a big mistake. So I'm a big proponent of having professionals um, do the do the chimney stuff and the yeah. I mean, chimney fires were pretty common back in the day because you had, they were like brick chimneys or what's the, I guess some of them had clay liners, but they weren't really insulated. And so, like I said, it would just, and if your wood wasn't perfectly seasoned, or if you had a big old house, like I said, if you had a big old house, just by virtue of the length of travel from wherever the source of the heat is until the chimney, was it a kind of a tall house, and was your wood stove in the basement? That's, I think, the most common thing. If if I had a wood stove in this room and it went straight up. The chimney went straight up. If you have a high quality chimney, I don't think for the most part you're going to have a lot of creosote. Um, but yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is to make sure that you have well seasoned wood. Some wood is more prone to creating creosote than others. I think, I think red oak, if I remember, is worse than others. I think pine, that pitchy stuff, might actually be worse too. But um, do you remember how they got the chimney fire out? I assume your house didn't burn down. Um, I believe, if I remember correctly, I think what the old guys used to do, they climb up and they pour a bag of salt, like just kitchen salt, down the chimney, and I think that'll put it out. Um, Otherwise, it's very hard to get a chimney fire out. Um, yeah, that was what my dad always said too. Um, that's what my dad and but I have never really had to do that with our place here, because we just don't get any kind of buildup of creosote here, even though it's a decent length. I got the good double wall or maybe even triple wall um, insulated chimney pipe, and that makes a huge difference. Um, yeah, another story with that wood stove I was telling you about in our first house. It was in the basement, and part of the problem with capping it is, again, if you have kind of an older, draftier wood stove, the it'll suck air in. So on the old wood stove that I had, I was in the basement. I was cleaning up, and I had some. I think it was in the house when I bought it. Some leftover pieces of masonite, which is basically a glorified cardboard. It's sawdust and glue. And I was like, oh, I got the fire going anyway. So I was cutting into strips, and I was just kind of sliding these pieces of masonite into the wood stove. And before I knew it, that thing started glowing, and you could hear the sound of it. And it had such an intense fire going up to the up into the chimney. I was really afraid we were going to burn the house down. Um, and the problem is that, like, I closed down the drafts on the stove, but it's so powerful. It's like a vacuum. It just sucks air in from everywhere, and you really couldn't stop it. Like, I couldn't. I had a hard time controlling the airflow. Finally, I started getting like some aluminum foil, and I was stuffing it inside like the different dampers or flappers or whatever on it, and finally I got it down. But if you have a chimney fire, it creates such a vacuum, such a that it pulls air in any cracks. So if you have an older chimney and there's any gaps in it, it will literally just suck air in, and you can't control it. At least that's been my experience. So Yeah, I'm a big fan of having the experts install your chimney and your wood stove. Make sure that it's up to code in term excuse me, in terms of you have the right setbacks from that to any kind of like flammable material. But yeah, we haven't had any real issues here in this place with the wood stove. So I like heating with wood. It sure is a nice, comfortable heat, very renewable and good for the environment. If that's your thing. So, do you cut your own wood, Jonah, or do you buy it? I know that if you have to burn a lot of wood, if you have like a big drafty house and not a super efficient stove, you can spend a lot of Saturdays or Sundays or whatever, whenever you do it, cutting wood. That I don't miss from my childhood. For me, I can be kind of pretty casual about it, um, and I don't mind spending 3 or 4 half Saturdays cutting wood throughout the year, and then but what I have no interest doing is spending every Saturday all day in the fall or starting late summer cutting wood. Then I think you have to reevaluate how you're doing it. Do you cut wood with your dad, and does your dad heat with wood as well? Um, the one thing that made our first house work because um, the one thing that made it work for the first house we had is we had a neighbor who had an outdoor boiler. He had a small engine repair shop, so he was heating his house and his shop. And his kids had kind of grown out, and but he had all the woods. It was fairly steep stuff. He was in the bottom of kind of some bluff countries, and but he had a nice big front wheel assist tractor. He had a hydraulic dump wagon. He had a skid steer with a hydraulic splitter, and I don't know if he had a grapple. And he was a small engine repairman, so we always had chainsaws that ran good. And that wasn't too bad. We would cut a lot of wood together um, between his, and we would just cut wood together, and I would take the wood I needed, and he would take the wood he needed. That worked good. I like cutting wood with other people, but as you say, yeah, that's the problem with wood heat. If you even if you have it yourself, it's a lot of time. It's a lot of time. It's inherently dangerous. I mean, I've had close calls. I'm sure you have too. I've got a. I don't know if you can't see it, but I've got. Let me see. Let's see here. Right here. Let's see if I can twist my arm here the right way. Oh, there we go. I have a big. I can't see. I have a big scar on my arm here um, from when um, I was splitting wood by hand, and I was using a maul hammer and a iron or steel split and wedge, and a piece of the split and wedge broke off, and it all of a sudden I felt kind of a sting, and it had gone through. It was almost like a 20. Somebody shot my arm with a 22, and it grazed, went out the other side, and it just opened the muscle up on my arm, and I was bleeding. Um, but chainsaws are just dangerous, and I like running chainsaw, but you can get very sloppy very fast. So I'm very careful about how I run my saw. Um, yeah, you'd like to think so, but you like I said, my kids help me cut wood, but I'm not doing it every Saturday for 2 months or a month and a half. Like it's half a day here, half a day there. Um, but I think it's really easy to make it very unpleasant for the kids, and they can kind of resent you for it. So I think you have to be careful about that. the problem, Jonah, is for me at least, if I apply myself to my normal job, if I work 1 hour there, I can make enough money to buy all of the wood I need for um, for the year and then some, and then I can spend more time with my kids doing other stuff or being a little more laid back about cutting wood ourselves. So that's my theory on it. What's your what's your favorite chainsaw, Jonah? Um, I have had I have a steel. I think it's a 034. They're both commercial grade saws. So I have a steel 034, but it's just been chronically unreliable since I got it. It's in the shop. There's a guy across the property from us has a small engine repair shop. He's very slow. I think he's had that saw for over a year now. And then I think last year I bought I don't remember if it was brand new or gently used, but I bought a Husqvarna. Um, um, I don't even remember what the name of it is, but it's a commercial grade, so it has the better bearings and all that kind of stuff. And I really like that saw. Yeah, my dad, when I was growing up, my dad had a big steel, an old steel. That thing would cut just anything down, but it was heavy. Like it was um, very heavy to use. He had let a friend use it, and his friend left accidentally backed over it while he was using it, broke it up, and so he bought my dad a Husqvarna probably 25 years ago, maybe a little close to 30 years ago. Um, and that's actually been a pretty good saw. You know, they're just the newer saws are so much lighter. There's more plastic on them, but quite honestly, I don't worry about that. I think having it be light enough, they're still very powerful and they run at a much higher RPM. I don't. I would say my chainsaw that I have now is kind of a mid-size. It's not super big, but it's not small. Um, it's just in the middle, maybe a little bit on the upper side of things, and probably have a 20-inch bar on it, maybe, and that cuts 99% of the wood that I need to. Um, yeah, I have a battery powered DeWalt because all my tools are DeWalt, and I tell you, it having that cordless saw is super nice to just have with you when you need to trim a limb here and there. Like when I was pasturing my woods quite a bit, just walking along the fence line, um, cutting up limbs and stuff that are drooped over your fence was nice. So the battery powered saws have come a long way. The problem I have with my DeWalt is the oiler isn't working. Um, Saw works great, and it's got plenty of power to cut decent sized limbs if you're not trying to cut a bunch of firewood. But the oiler doesn't work, so the chain isn't getting lubricated. So I've stopped using it. I have to take it apart and see if I can get that working. But the battery powered ones, especially for like the kids and stuff, I think are really nice for limbing. Um, but yeah. Do you split your wood by hand or do you have a hydraulic splitter? You probably have a hydraulic splitter, I suppose. I So we actually right now I don't have a gas powered hydraulic splitter. I have a small um, small electric one, which is surprisingly good. So I hand split 90% of my firewood. Sometimes a piece will get through that's a little big for our stove, or like when I buy slab wood from the Amish, you'll get some that are a little too big for the stove. And I actually really like the small electric one for just kind of that stuff. It's right outside the front door of the house. My kids can run it, and it's quiet and whatever. Um, but so for me, when I get those, if it's a piece that I can't quickly split by hand, I just throw it aside. And eventually, what I do is I'll just throw a trailer load of them and I'll haul them down to my neighbor who has an outdoor boiler, and he just throws it in there. Um, the one thing is I've gotten older. The one thing I don't have any interest in doing is just beating my brains out trying to split big pieces of wood, tough pieces of wood by hand. Um, but for most part, my wood all splits very nicely by hand. Um, I also use those Fiskars splitters, Fisker. Um, they're so much lighter and easier to swing and do a good job versus the old heavy splitting mauls that I grew up on. I have them, but I don't really like to use them. But that's how I split the wood, and I'll just do, I'll split for an hour or so, and I'll come and I'll do another, another day I'll do some, and it's a nice kind of a workout. So that's kind of how I do my splitting. Um, yeah, I when I first saw them, I thought, well, that's not. They're too light. I thought there's no way that's going to split wood, but they do such a good job. And I have the bigger one and the medium size or smaller one, and I reach for the smaller one 90% of the time. It's just you can actually swing it one handed if you need to, and so I had gotten the smaller one for my boys and bigger one for me, but I actually pretty much just use the smaller one. Just fits very nice in the hands. So yeah, the Fisker is a really nice splitting axes. I'm surprised at how good of a job they do because I kind of grew up old school. Oh, you got to have a big old heavy maul, a big old sledge. Um, I'm past those days. I have no interest in doing much of that. If I have a piece here and there, then I need to. But usually, if you have to get out the split and maul and wedges and stuff like that, I let the guys with the outdoor boilers have those pieces of wood. It's not worth my time. So, but are you all done cutting wood, or do you have to kind of cut wood throughout the winter, Jonah? Um, the way I've been doing it is I it so I have two wagons. One's a large wagon, one's a kind of a medium sized wagon. And the large wagon is covered. It's a old silage wagon. Um, and so I fill that with wood that we cut on our place, and then the other wagon um, I bring over to the Amish. They're about 10 miles from here, and they fill it up. I bought it last year, so it had a whole year to season. And then I go between the slab wood, which is mostly oak, and the what I cut on our place, which is a lot of elm and box elder and some oak. What do you mean by that, Jonah? Um, when I bought this place, I had it in my mind I was going to save so much money by living off the land or whatever that I wouldn't need to work as much. Maybe I'm just maybe I'm just a bad budgeter, but I have found that to be a backwards approach to things. Um, I still have things, but I've scaled back a lot of what we do here. We used to grow a huge garden. I have a much smaller garden now. Um, I raised cows for many years. I don't have cows right now. Um, even the firewood and stuff. Um, I pick my battles. Um, I have found that for me at least, maybe just because I have a good job that I can make decent money at. An hour or two of me spent doing what I'm really good at is so much better for the family than me spending every Saturday out weeding the garden and cutting firewood and stuff like that. Even with the kids' help, but my experience has been, this is true when I was a kid. Um, Kids will help a little bit, but it's really hard to get them to want to do it all day long. I think that's especially true for modern kids. Maybe that's a bad thing, but uh, I've seen a lot of kids grow up um, kind of being forced to do that all day, every day, and kind of hate it, resent their parents, never want to do any of that themselves. So I've taken a my philosophy on that has changed over time, and so um, we are we pick the stuff that we do. Um, yeah, good luck with that. That it just I think that's a bad approach. But like so like today, we need to replenish the firewood stock in the house. My 12-year-old boy loves doing that, but he'll go out. So he'll go out. He's probably up now. He'll go out and he'll spend, let's say, an hour. He'll go out and he'll get wood down from the wagon. He'll bring it into the house. Stuff that needs to be split, he'll put next to the splitter. He'll cut up kindling for me, and it's an hour or two on a Saturday as opposed to 6 or 8 hours on a Saturday. And then he still has time to do fun things. We can go ice fishing and stuff like that. So that's my philosophy in life. I think that old school force the kids to work. I think I'm not convinced that's the right way to do it. That's the way my dad was. That's the way my dad tries to be with our kids. But I think I think that's a risky approach. I'm not a fan of it, but that's just my own personal feeling about it. I've got about 5 minutes here, and then I actually have another live stream to get on. For anyone that's interested in YouTubing, podcasting, things like that, I have another channel. I have a mastermind group that I host. So I'm going to go live stream over there starting in 10 minutes. So I'm going to wrap this up here. Didn't really get to the weight loss and fitness stuff, but I think cutting firewood sort of fits into that a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, my approach to things has evolved quite a bit. Um, I actually think I missed out on a lot of my kids' good experiences with my kids when I was um, a younger man because I wanted to do all the living off the land stuff, you know, growing our food, cutting our wood, um, all that kind of stuff. I've decided to scale back some of that. Maybe as the kids get older and get out of the house, my wife and I it'll be just some of the stuff that we do more. But I don't know. There's a season for everything. That's my approach to things. So, all right. Anything else, Jonah? What do you got going on today? So I have the other live stream at 8. I have to go down to the dump to take our garbage out, and then I have um, to go down to Iowa and meet with a customer today. So normally I don't have to do that on Saturdays, but this one is kind of important, so I'm going to head down there and take care of that, and then yeah, get back at it. So I hope you guys enjoy these live streams. This is the kind of stuff that I think is really useful for this channel, um, and haha, in time I will reveal all things, Jonah. Um, I'm getting closer to revealing a little more about myself, but and some in the community know what I do for professional reasons, I can't really do that. I'd rather not. And so I appreciate people respecting that privacy for now, just because I don't want to take a chance on anything that I do online, especially over the other channels, to jeopardize that and my ability to provide for my kids. But I'm closer to being kind of independent enough that it won't matter. But for now, you just have to. I'll keep you guessing, just purely for the sake of my kids and my ability to provide for them. So that's will remain a mystery for now. Um, okay, it was good talking with you, Jonah. I'll probably do this next week, and maybe uh, if you ever want to come on, Jonah, and talk about your life, what you do, things, how you do things, just let me know. Love to chat on in person with people. So if you have any topics you'd like to talk about, it, let me know in advance. But that's yeah, that was fun. I enjoyed talking about that. I don't get a chance to really talk about this stuff too much. Um, so anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. I hope you have a great day, Jonah. I hope you enjoy the time with your. uh, yeah, my wife is. Well, she's up or not. My what my wife gets up when the 2-year-old wakes up, and if the 2-year-old is still sleeping, my wife will still be sleeping. So, um, yeah, enjoy your day, enjoy your kids, and we'll catch up with you next time. All right, till next time, everyone. Have a good one.